Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Radio Resistance podcast. Today, we're going to be doing something new. It's going to be a series where my co-host Zubair and I will be dissecting clips from a recent episode of a podcast by 5Pillars, a so-called Islamic organization that's been whitewashing the Taliban since 2021. In this latest episode of theirs, which is audaciously titled Western Lies Debunked, the Truth About the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan, it's nothing short of propaganda, and they're attempting to rewrite history and the reality, painting the Taliban as some sort of misunderstood heroes rather than the tyrants that they are. The clips that we're going to be reacting to are packed with their tactics designed to deceive and distract from the Taliban's brutal regime. Most importantly, as far as the takeaway, Afghanistan today is not suffering because of Western influence. It's suffering because of the Taliban and the Taliban alone. And we're here to expose the truth. So let's go ahead and begin, and we will dissect narrative by narrative. So the video or the clip, let me pull it up, that I'll be starting with. Here it is. Let's go ahead and bring it to the beginning. Hear the truth. Muslims Uncensored. That's the name of their podcast, I believe. Let's go ahead, play this.
One thing I do want to discuss on the program while we've got you here is, I don't know if you saw this while you were out there because you were so busy, but there was a massive reaction.
Oh, we definitely saw
from all of the Western, pro-West Afghan diaspora, basically.
Western,
the ones
pro-West.
that probably hate Islam a little bit. They probably don't like the fact that Afghanistan's an Islamic Emirate. They don't like the Taliban, and they don't like anyone going there. Speaking about it
at
any
all.
other way.
At all.
So you were getting slammed. We got slammed because we just discussed it
By
on
association.
one of our, we were attacked by association.
Some of these guys made
And
a
it was
tweet on us.
so-
Did you see what that tweet?
Yeah.
Is that they're not even Muslim. They're not Muslims. I was like, what? I was like, how can
okay,
you
so
say
it's
that?
okay when they do that
But
to us.
it was quite funny.
Like
I thought
they
it was
literally do
hilarious.
takfir.
But what do you make of it? Because they were
Okay.
saying all sorts of stuff. They were saying that you're Taliban propagandists, and we
Not
were
man.
accused of all sorts as well. Like why a lot of people say to us, like, "Oh, you're not Afghan. How dare you talk about it? How dare you have a different view to me, this Western Afghan?"
Okay. Well, before this last point, first of all, right off the bat, they start with a very classic move, labeling any of Taliban's critics as pro-Western and anti-Islam. That was the more important part. They said they hate Islam. I'm Muslim myself. I'm from Afghanistan myself, and just like most from Afghanistan who are Muslim as well, an overwhelming majority of Afghanistan is Muslim, right? Including the majority that is anti-Taliban as well. This is nothing but a very desperate attempt to discredit, the legitimate opposition by framing it as un-Islamic. That's what they're doing here. Let's just be clear. Opposing the Taliban has nothing to do with rejecting Islam. It's about defending it from those who are hijacking, those extremists, those terrorists who are hijacking the religion. And then also on one other thing, they're calling the U.S. and NATO's presence as an occupation. This is a very, very deliberate distortion. We see this all the time. The majority of those from Afghanistan welcomed international support to help rid Afghanistan of the Taliban terror, just like they are today. We see the women who they're silencing, who there's a brutal gender apartheid. Yeah, so anyway, the real occupation is the Taliban's stranglehold on our country, turning it into a prison for the vast majority of our people. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue. What are they saying here about Bangladeshiness and Afghanness?
Do you want to respond to all this?
First,
you were there.
Yeah, first and foremost, al-Muslimun al-Ikhwa. The Muslims are brothers. Our affairs are the same. I accept anyone talking about the affairs of Bangladesh.
Wait. So for those who aren't familiar with what those few Arabic words he just threw in there, it actually comes from the Quranic verse. Okay. They very cleverly invoke a Quranic verse over here. And I see where this is going, to justify why Bangladeshi can speak on Afghan matters they're emphasizing the brotherhood of Muslims. That verse, let me mention it for those who don't know. It's from the Holy Quran. The verse reads, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنما المؤمنون إخوة فأسلموا. So, of course, as Muslims, we believe in the unity of our ummah. But this is just another sly tactic. They use our shared faith here as a cover to dismiss the overwhelming consensus among most from Afghanistan who oppose the Taliban. The verse here is just being manipulated, or the few words he threw wasn't even the verse. He can't even recite the verse of the Holy Quran. But the verse those words being manipulated to simply silence the voice of those who are directly affected by the Taliban's tyranny. Let's go ahead and
So long as
continue.
it comes with genuine care and concern for the betterment of that said nation and its people. So that stuff I don't buy. I don't take that from an Arab telling me about Palestine in the same way I don't take that from an Afghan telling me about the affairs of the Afghan people. So that forget about that. As for their concerns and their hatred, there's a spectrum of it. Some are genuine and sound and come from what appears to be at least from a neutral place, but a lot of it comes from these are people that either collaborated with the occupation, they benefited from the occupation, they worked under the occupation, they enjoyed the kind of religious laxity of the occupation, they have fully adopted Western notions of freedom and women's rights and these kind of things.
Okay, so wait, before, because there's a bunch of random stuff he's just like throwing out there. So we mentioned that some concerns about the Taliban are quote unquote genuine and sound, but you see what they did over there. They quickly lumped them into a minority viewpoint. This is very calculated. It's just simply to acknowledge criticism without giving it any real weight. The truth is, the vast majority of Afghans inside and outside the country oppose the Taliban. Not because of some misplaced, Western influence, but simply because of the Taliban's own actions. They've waged a war against the people of Afghanistan, not against anyone else. In fact, they are today being supported by the same ones that they were claiming a war against for the longest of time, meaning the government of the country in which I reside, the United States government, sending them 40 to 70 million US dollars, tax dollars on a weekly basis.
They liked having discos and clubs. They liked having these kind of places where men and women mix frequently. They liked having. So there's a spectrum of that stuff.
That's why they're annoyed, because they can't go to Kabul and do a disco.
Some of them,
they want silly feminism in Afghanistan.
Go to their Twitter account.
Quite frankly.
Okay, so there, I mean, I don't even need to say much. They throw in a ridiculous argument about discos and clubs to trivialize the opposition. Afghanistan is a very conservative society. It's always been. Even during the 20-year republic, there were no such thing as nightclubs or discos. They weren't there. Yeah, so this has nothing to do with that. It's again about stopping the Taliban from dragging our country back into the dark ages, which it's already done. This is just simply distraction, plain and simple.
Yeah. You go to their Twitter account, and if you were to say, because I followed some of it, and I thought, okay, fine, let me see if this person appears to be a religiously devout person, right? And someone who differs with the Imara on religious issues. No, they're like, some of them are drinkers and clubbers, and
just idiots.
Fully adopting un-Islamic things, saying something. Okay, so that seems like the creme de la creme bunch of the critics. Yeah. But there was I'd say about 15 to 20% that came from a neutral point.
Really?
Yeah,
I didn't see any. I just thought they were all a bunch of
the loudest ones were all kind of like collaborators and people that instigated and benefit from the occupation. and weren't really Islamic
just
themselves. But I saw a
lumping
small
everybody
portion of
into a
people who just like,
minority
look, man,
viewpoint, any
look,
opposition.
we appreciate what the Taliban did for 20 years. We understand that they fought the occupation. We also wanted a more Islamic and conservative Afghanistan, but this stuff is too much, right? Your Pashtun ways is too much. You can't impose that on us under the facade of it being Islam. I did see that, right?
All right.
Went into their profiles and they seemed like religious conservative people.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh, does that mean irreligious people cannot have a view about the Taliban? You absolutely can. But we're just talking about
We just don't care what you think.
Yeah, the depth of the argument, the depth of the contention, you need to present it. Why do you believe that those things that were prevalent under the occupation is socially and spiritually better for the people of Afghanistan compared to it now?
Yeah.
Can you have that same conversation with these people? No, because they get irate. Some of them maybe have had members jailed or killed by the Islamic Emirates. I don't know. But the point is, if you're going to have an argument and a discussion, first don't make takfir on us, which is what a lot of them did. Secondly, ground your contention on a proper basis, right?
Yeah.
And it's rarely, if ever, from an Islamic basis.
Yeah.
Okay, this is very, it's not just absurd anymore. It's very much insulting. As I mentioned that, Afghanistan's always been a conservative society. We never needed a Taliban to enforce such things. The idea that, people are upset because they can't go clubbing in Kabul, like I said, it's not only a lie. They're mocking legitimate concerns about human rights now. The Taliban's oppression. This is just classic deflection of focusing on a non-issue to distract from the real crimes they're committing. Also, this whole idea of them trying to delegitimize, see, on Islamic basis argument, right? They're trying to delegitimize any criticism by claiming it doesn't have an Islamic basis. This is they're doing what the Taliban are doing, which is monopolizing Islam for their own twisted purposes. Islam is about justice, mercy, and the protection of the innocent. All the things that the Taliban actively destroy. The real question isn't whether our criticism is Islamic, it's whether the Taliban's actions are. And the answer to that is a very loud and resounding no. All right, let's
Yeah,
They're bitter.
finish
They
this
lost
up.
their
Yeah,
home in their
getting
country.
tired of
They
it.
can't go. They see you going there enjoying yourself and having a whale of a time, and they can't do the same
A
thing.
lot of these people that emigrated, or they left the country after
If we can't do the
2021,
same thing,
they were
doesn't mean that
opportunists. They didn't
foreigners
have
have
to
more
emigrate.
privilege.
They
They
weren't
chose
under
to.
any threat
Many chose to.
because obviously we know that a lot of Asians and Africans, they're desperate to get to the West because they live in a poor economic countries.
Anything for better money, better life.
Better money, better life. Yeah, they took advantage.
I'm look, any kind of far right enthusiast in GB News and Talk TV guys that are tuning into this will tell you this, right? These people that are coming on boats legally and illegally, they're not coming here because of democracy and freedom and values. They're coming for socioeconomic reasons. They're coming to make an earner, get money, earn money, legal, illegal, support their families back home, and maybe establish
Okay,
themselves.
I'm gonna
here.
let him finish.
They're not
here.
coming here for these perceived notions of freedoms and stuff like this. This is the truth. They're coming here for purely, if not entirely, for economic reasons.
All right, wow. Okay, here, you see how they reduce the complex, such a complex issue of migration to a mere socioeconomic pursuit. This is completely ignoring the terror and oppression driving these people to flee, right? This is actually dehumanizing those who have escaped the Taliban's oppressive and gender apartheid regime. It's framing them as opportunists rather than the victims. It's a very subtle yet insidious way to downplay the brutality of the Taliban and shift the focus away from the real reasons people are leaving. One thing that just came to mind, if you remember back in exactly 3 years prior to now, it's heartbreaking just thinking and remembering these scenes of those who gripped onto the planes, knowing that they were going to fall off as these last planes were leaving. Afghanistan. Who were these people? These were Muslims. Like these are ordinary Afghans, right? Trying to leave, clinging on to an aircraft because they know who the Taliban are. This Bangladeshi guy doesn't know. These people sitting in the UK, sitting in London, enjoying freedom out in the West. Man, why don't they get up and just go? That's what the governments in the West need to start doing. Send these people back, you know. Uh, Reduce that issue to mere socioeconomic pursuits. It's not only insulting, it's a gross oversimplification. And then, yeah, one other thing I just wanted to, I guess, let's just cut to the chase. These propagandists aren't just spreading lies. They're ultimately recruiting useful idiots in the West to help sanitize the Taliban's brutality. Whether it's out of ignorance or self-interest, these influences are spreading and peddling a whitewashed version of reality, oblivious to the real suffering that's happening in Afghanistan. I don't think it's accidental. I think it's very deliberate. It's a deliberate strategy to legitimize a regime that's thriving on oppression and terror. But I also believe that the Taliban's mask will eventually slip. And no amount of, slick propaganda or paid apologists can hide the reality forever. The people of Afghanistan who live this nightmare every day, they're not going to be silenced. We've seen the women who have been the flag bearers of our resistance. They're not going to be silenced. They're going to, and we're going to keep exposing the lies, defending our faith, and fighting for a free, just Afghanistan. This series is just the start. Zubair and I will continue to break down their propaganda, exposing the truth, clip by clip, the truth that they're very desperate to hide. We're not going anywhere, and neither is the truth. Thanks for watching.